our very own Seth Greenberg. Seth, thanks for coming on. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Looking forward to these games tomorrow. So let's start with the first one. What do you see with UConn, Florida?
UConn's had a magical run. There's no doubt about it. And, everyone wants to talk about the Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker type season. And it's great. It's more than just Shabazz Napier. Let's face it. I mean, DeAndre Daniels and Niels Gafai are tough matchups in those ball screens with Napier. And they've improved up front. They've improved their defense. Boatwright's playing better. And having said that, Florida's just the best team. And when I think about the best team, think about Florida's team. They graduated their 3 leading scorers, and they became a better team. And they became a better team because they have a better team chemistry. They've got a better trust. Guys are championing and embracing roles. And at the end of the games, they're better. I mean, think about this. Last year, this is a crazy stat. Every single one of their wins was by double digits. But in close games, they struggled. This year, excluding the loss to Wisconsin and the loss to Connecticut, they won every single-digit game. And that speaks volumes for their ability to make good decisions, take care of the ball. Scotty Wilbekin being a playmaker and a play starter and a guy who can make shots. And I just think they're the best defensive team in the tournament. I think they're the most connected team. I think they've got the most senior leadership. And I think they're the toughest team. So I like Florida in that game.
Now, I want to say they had an easy trip to the Final Four, Seth, because I know you had a lot of respect for UCLA, but is UConn by far the best team that they've played in this tournament?
UCLA is the best offensive team. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. I mean, UCLA offensively is really good. Kyle Anderson is a tough matchup. Jordan Adams is good without the basketball. The Ware twins, you got to remember, they're fifth-year seniors. I mean, they've played in big games and won a lot of games. Norman Powell's a pretty good defender. They're the best offensive team. I would say Connecticut right now is playing the best team. But people forget about this Connecticut team. St. Joe's had them beat. I mean, they had them beat. A 3-point play by Anita Bryman, the last guy you would think would make a big bucket in that game in regulation. They don't foul him, and a foolish foul by St. Joe's, or St. Joe's advances in that game. So, fine line, magnificent, not just for himself, but for what I call the good of the group. But Florida right now, there's something about them, their poise. I think the way Billy's handling the Final Four. I mean, he always says the right thing. His teams say the right thing. They carry themselves the right way. And look at Scotty Wilbekin. Here's a guy who was suspended earlier in the season. Suspended. Wasn't even sure if he was going back with the team. Now, if you listen to Scotty Wilbekin now, he sounds like Billy Donovan. I mean, that's when you know your team is connected, is when your players sound like the message that the coach is giving them each and every day.
Now, the second game, Kentucky-Wisconsin. So Bo Ryan finally gets the team to the Final Four. I don't know if he needed that to validate his career. Obviously a great coach. But it looks like Calipari has all of these freshmen playing as well as they've played all year. And if you're a coach, Seth, that's exactly who you want. You want your team to peak. That team is peaking right now.
Oh, Michael, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you think about it, you beat a 1, a 2, a 4, and the dreaded 8-9 game. I mean, there are people that picked them to lose that Kansas State game. And Kansas State, especially on a young team, makes life miserable because they're so good defensively. Cal's got these guys figuring it out. I've joked around. I said, after that South Carolina game where they lost and he got thrown out, they all went to therapy, including John, and they came back better for it. And that's really what happened. They're playing for the good of the group. They're more unselfish. They're trusting each other. They're shooting an incredible percentage from the field. And Aaron Harrison right now is playing ridiculous. I mean, at an elite level. This Kentucky team right now is playing really well. I still, when they get matched up with a Florida team, if they get to the finals, I like Florida's overall maturity. Maybe not their talent, but their overall maturity.
How much does losing Cauley Stein going to affect Kentucky? It didn't in the previous game, but he's a player.
Oh, it has an effect. In this game, it's a game more against Wisconsin than it would be maybe against Kentucky because of the way Wisconsin plays. I mean, Frank Kaminsky's a tough matchup because he can play what I call in the action. He can play in the low post, but I wouldn't call him a low post player. He can play on the perimeter. You can put him in ball screens. He's got great footwork. Now you're asking Dakari Johnson to defend him all over the floor. And especially in the offense that they run, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Dakari Johnson, Marcus Lee and those guys to make good decisions. So I think it's a tough matchup. I think that Becker could be a tough matchup. On the other hand, Julius Randle's going to be a tough matchup. James Young against Josh Gosser, and Josh Gosser's a great, great athlete. But James Young in transition ahead of the defense, man, he's pretty good. So I think in the end, I agree with you guys in that in the end, Kentucky, the way they're playing now, their physicality, their athleticism, their length, all those things, I think it's really going to bother Wisconsin.
But if Wisconsin can play their game in their system, Seth, could they still be beaten?
Yeah, they can be beaten. I mean, the funny thing is, Wisconsin, we were doing this stat the other day. They've won a game in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, this is not your father's Wisconsin. This isn't the grinded-out Wisconsin of Dick Bennett. I mean, they play 3-point guards. They only turn it over 8 times. They make shots. They're extremely difficult to defend, but I just think in the end, their overall athleticism. I'll give you one X factor for Wisconsin. Nigel Hayes. Nigel Hayes is strong enough and maybe tough enough to match up with Randall. He could be an X factor, the freshman from Toledo. But in their system, I've watched Kentucky improve defensively, where they have pretty good defensive principles, and I just don't know what I think. I actually think Wisconsin's best chance to win this game, and this is probably I'm in the minority, is to get the game going up and down. To get the game where their three-point shooting becomes a factor by getting more rhythm shots in transition, as opposed to have to line up in the half court and make shots over the Kentucky defense.
Well, you know what I'm hoping for, and we're talking with our very own Seth Greenberg here on the Michael K. Show. I want Florida, Kentucky, because that's what college basketball is about to me. Two disparate teams. One has a roster of NBA players in Kentucky, and you really have to search to find one on the Florida. You mentioned the word team, and that's almost in capital letters with that. It's almost like, okay, what's going to win, the team or the team of superstars? I think it should be fascinating.
It will be a great storyline, and you're talking about 2 SEC schools, and they're not playing for a football national championship.
Nice.
In the year we always talked about the SEC being down. You could have an all SEC final, and 2 coaches that are at the top of their professions. John Calipari is going to be a Hall of Famer. I think Billy Donovan is going to be a Hall of Famer. Another championship. Think what it does for both of them. It gives Billy Donovan a 3rd national championship. And that's rare air. That's Calhoun country. That's no joke. And for Cal, it gives him a 2nd national championship and probably his best coaching job. Because, when the championship he won last time, he had some guys in his locker room. He had Miller. He had Lamb. He had Terrence Jones. This year, they don't have anyone in that locker room that really had a significant impact on their season last year that resulted in, think about the season, they went from losing to Bobby Morris, Robert Morris in the first round of the NIT to the Final Four. Now, that's incredible, really, if you think about it.
Great stuff, Seth. Enjoy it. It's such a great weekend. I'm envious of you, so have a good time.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.